I'm here. I'm here. I think. At this point, I don't know. Am I here? Holler if you hear me. Yo, holler if you hear me. What a disaster. What a disaster. Give me 2 seconds, man. Give me 2 seconds. No video. That's fine. Yeah, there's no video. I know. I know there's no video. That's why I'm late. Christ. Here we are. Welcome, one and all. Jesus, what? So, I mean, this is my first rodeo. We've done a few of these before. I've explained the setup before, right? I've got a streaming. I've got my main PC here, and then I've got a streaming PC over in the corner. I've got an HDMI cable going from my main PC to a capture card in a streaming PC, and that's what feeds the video into the streaming PC. It's worked a treat for like however many weeks we've been doing this, 7 or 8. Today, it just ain't working. I fired it up about an hour ago. I was like, oh, I've got an hour to prep for this, mate. We missed the stream. See, I'll pass the blame. I missed the stream last week, and I thought, I'll give myself an hour to get prepped in that. And for the last hour, I've been like on my hands and knees behind the desk, trying to, and now now I've got this. That's my the cat's just like, mate, you ain't using the computer. You think you've got problems? I'm gonna give you a problem. You're just gonna sit there, aren't you? That's where the mouse is meant to. But yeah, so I thought I'll give myself an hour to get prepped in that, and the feed from the main PC and the streaming PC is just dead. My PC picks up the fact that it's feeding a capture card, but the capture card is like, nah, I've got no signal. And I'm like, what the hell, man? You've had a signal for 8 weeks? In the last hour, I've just been trying to get it to work, and it's just non bueno. Not having it. So the feed is what I do when I go to... Cat, get out of the bloody way, man. You're already in the way. The feed is when I switch over to this view here, and then that's where Inventor usually is in VRED. I've got a big fat no signal because that's my main desktop. Just ain't there. So I don't know what I'm going to do there. So if you've got any questions, I'm going to have to like fire from up here for this one. What's going on? You know what I mean? You spend a fortune buying like capture cards and like setting it all up. You got cables going all over here and that, and then piping up the monitors up there and microphones switching 2 ways and that, and you're like, right, I've got this absolutely nailed here, mate. I've got it nailed. It's just like, no, you ain't, mate. No, you ain't. You ain't doing diddly. Looks like you've been painting. Yeah, this is me paint splatter top. It debuted in a video a couple of months ago. Probably longer than that. It's seen better days, this one now, actually. Apparently that's the fashion, to be covered in paint splatters. So it's been a hell of a day, man. I mean, it hasn't been a hell of a day. It was fine up until technology decided to F me over. Oh, damn, I'll figure it out. I think what its beef is because I've only got one HDMI output on my graphics card, and then I switched that over to go straight to the TV so I could play me racing games, and then yeah, I think I've just confused it. Heaven forbid you want to switch your HDMI outputs and use it for something else. Whoa, you can't do that. Oh, never mind. We're here. We made it. I made it. We did it, Reddit. Cat, would you get off? Cat, I swear to God. How y'all doing? What's going on? What did I buy? So yeah, what did I buy? This cat, I swear. So yeah, the reason that the live stream's today, not tomorrow, is for entirely selfish midlife crisis reasons. Tomorrow I have an over-the-top, ridiculously expensive, high-end sim racing steering wheel turning up. If you want to Google it, it's the Fanatec Podium DD2 steering wheel. I can't even show you my screen. Yeah, I can't even show you my screen to show you it. Yeah, the Fanatec Podium DD2. So it's a direct drive steering wheel. For the past couple of years, I've been slumming it on Thrustmaster TX steering wheels. Oh, I can't be having that. So yeah, eBay the last week, eBay had a 2% like promotion on sellers fees. So I shifted a ton of stuff on eBay. Just sold a load of stuff that I had kicking around. And raised enough to get... Oh, cat! Hang on a minute, 2 seconds. The cat's now kicking a bottle top around the ground and it's making a racket. So yeah, that's due to arrive tomorrow. Boys with toys. So yeah, eBay had this 2% thing and I thought I'll shift a load of stuff. I managed to raise nearly enough to pay for it. It's expensive. It's bleeding expensive. Hang on a minute, this cat, I swear, I'm going to drop kick it out the room if it doesn't. Bottle top, cat, hardwood floor, plastic floor even. Not a good combo. So yeah, that's going to turn up. And direct drive wheels, so I've heard, require a lot of setting up and playing with and stuff. And it's a new toy. I thought I'm going to want to be playing with that. It's going to be a setup mission and a half to get that set up. So I thought we'll get the stream done today. 50. That's 1500, mate. That's without the physical wheel. You've got to buy a steering wheel on top of that as well. I did admit I've come to terms with the fact that this is a full-on midlife crisis. Yeah. But hey, I mean, I'm using this thing at the moment. That thing there. It served its purpose, but it just doesn't cut the mustard. It doesn't. It can't keep up with me. It's a Thrustmaster TX. It's just full of belts and cheap plastic, and it's tat. It's absolute tat. And I want direct drive. I've got to step my game up. Is that after the missus drilling it into you? That yeah. Yeah, it does look cool. The thing would want to snap your wrist. It puts out 25 Newton meters of torque. It'll rip your shoulder off. If that thing jolts whilst you've got a hold of it, it'll genuinely rip your shoulders out of its socket. It's that it puts out that much force. So you've got to dial it back. But I mean, you don't buy it for that amount. Nobody, when you can run it. There's people who've done like force feedback challenges where they've went around the Nürburgring with a force feedback wheel with that much torque on. But there's no enjoyment in that. It's not realistic. The whole point of a direct drive wheel is they're much more precise. You get a lot more detail and feedback through the wheel as to what a car's doing in a simulator. I've never used one before, and that's kind of why like tomorrow I'm so buzzing for tomorrow, because everybody who's got a direct drive wheel just buzzes about them, and they just beat off about them about how much better they are. So I'm like just super excited for it. I couldn't get the wheel that I wanted because I'm into Formula. Obviously, I'm into Formula One. So I wanted the Fanatec Formula 1 rim, but obviously they're all out of stock. So I've bought the Porsche RSR leather wheel for now, and then I'll buy a Formula 1 wheel later on. But what racing sims do I play? It depends. Like at the moment, mostly Assetto Corsa. But not competitively. I just like jump into VR because that's got I think from my point of view anyway, it's got the best VR mode and the best kind of feeling through the wheel and the physics of the car. So Assetto Corsa is like, when you're driving a car in Assetto Corsa, it's the closest to how you imagine the cars actually feel like. When you're throwing a car around a corner in Assetto Corsa, the way the cars react and the way you catch slides and you control a car is the closest I've felt in a sim to being as realistic as possible and to being as accurate as possible. But at the moment I'm playing Formula F1 2020 more than Assetto Corsa, but it's crap. It's absolutely crap. It's a Codemasters game, and they ain't masters of no code. They're a dreadful development house. In terms of creating a game, they are shockingly bad at making games. They need to have the license stripped away from them and given to someone else. They're a dreadful developer. Part of their problem, it's not a problem, I understand why they do it. They cater to the console community. There's more sales from the console side of things, so the game's catered at consoles, which means that you're sat in the simulator seat over there trying to play it on a massive TV on the wall with a steering wheel, and you can't control the game with a mouse. You've got to control it with a keyboard, so you've got to press F5 and F6 to jump between menus, and then up, down, left, right arrows to navigate between like setups. And if you want to adjust your suspension settings, you've got to do it with F5, F6, up, down, left, right arrows. It's like, come on, mate. At least put a bit of effort in. If you're going to put this across to the PC, the least you could do and charge 60 quid, in fact 70 quid for it, is put a bit of effort in to give out mouse support. But no. And it is, more the F1 2020 is a absolute copy-paste of F1 2019. Like, literal copy-paste. It's a service pack. It's a service pack on top of F1 2019. But they're the guys that have got the Formula 1 license. So if you want to drive proper current F1 cars with the real names, the liveries on the tracks that they're racing on this year, eventually, then that's the game that you've got to play with. There's no VR, unfortunately. That sucks. The driving physics suck. I'm hoping it's going to get a bit better with the direct drive wheel. Probably not. Like in F1 2020, or actually more 2019, because I haven't really been on 2020 that much yet. You can be doing 200 mile an hour in a Formula 1 car, and then you can go full lock. Imagine Silverstone, right? You're going 200 miles an hour down a Silverstone straight, and you can just full lock the wheel, and you get no feedback at all in the steering wheel. That you're actually... Imagine what would happen to the car if you did that. You would understeer in a straight line. The car's just not going to... You're not going to just kind of go in a right angle. The car's going to slide. It's going to understeer. You get no feedback at all through the wheel that's actually happening. Whereas in the likes of Assetto Corsa, the wheel starts to kind of judder a little bit, and you get a loosening of the forces as the wheel or the wheels on the road lose grip, and it feeds back to you that, hey, your car's lost grip here, so your wheel kind of loosens up and it starts to judder, and you need that kind of feedback, and you don't get it with Formula 1 games because they just don't know how to do it. That's my conclusion anyway. Dirt 2. Yeah, do you know what it is? I tried Dirt Rally in that. I can't remember why I didn't stick with it. I don't know if I was just having PC issues at the time or what, but I bought it. It might have been Dirt Rally 1 actually. But yeah, I just tried it and I couldn't get into it. I think it might have been just because the wheels, my wheel didn't feel right or something like that. I can't remember, but yeah, I think I'd enjoy rally games actually, because in VR they'd be awesome. So I might actually, once I get the direct drive wheel in, I might get back into Dirt Rally. It's tricky once you get into the simulator and you think, right, I've got a choice here. I can only drive one thing. I'm always going to pick Formula 1 cars. That's just my go-to thing. You can't beat them, especially in VR. Just sit yourself in VR in an open cockpit Formula 1 car, and that's oh. There's a nice VR plugin for Richard Burns Rally. I've never played Richard Burns Rally. I've seen some people kind of reviving it and that, but I've never. That's another thing I might think. Like, that's the thing with getting this wheel. It's very materialistic, but getting this might just sort of give us a bit of motivation to try all these other things. Because that Thrustmaster wheel that I've got, you'll be able to hear this. Listen to this, right? I'm going to click the gear upshifts. Listen to this. Like, that clicking noise is about 1.5 meters away from the microphone, and that's like the noise that the steering wheel makes when you do an upshift and a downshift. It's this like thundering loud upshift and downshift, and you're just like, it puts you off using this wheel. So I think once I get the direct drive wheel and I've got less distractions, I might be like, get into it a bit more. What's the best VR solution for gaming? A good PC. You just need a good PC, mate. I haven't kept up with the recent VR headsets that are out. Like the last time I really looked at VR headsets was when the Cosmos came out, and that was garbage. But I own the original Oculus Rift, which is obsolete now, so that's just more of a museum piece. I've got the original HTC Vive, which was the first VR headset that I ever bought. Love that. I don't use it now because it's obsolete. It still works, it's still supported, but I've got something better now. But that was like my introduction to VR. I've got the Oculus Rift S, which is awesome, and I've got the Valve Index, which is even more awesome. It's kind of down to budget. The best is the Valve Index, because it's got that best refresh rate inside the headset. So if you want a smoother experience, you go for the Valve Index. The controllers are better as well, because they've got like a more of not haptic, but the touch sensors on the controllers are better set up for gaming. But the Oculus Rift S doesn't require base stations. It's inside out tracking, so it tracks from the headset, and it's cheaper anyway. 300, and I think it's roughly 399 quid for the Oculus Rift S headset. So it's easier to get into with the Oculus Rift S, but you need a decent PC. Sort of minimum at this point, RTX 20. I would say 2060 Super, absolute minimum 2060 Super. 2070 Super recommended. Actually no, that's not true. I've got a 2060 here, an RTX 2060, and it's actually not that bad. I was sim racing with it before I shifted everything around, and that RTX 2060 was pretty decent. So I'd say an RTX 2060 would be okay. In fact, that workstation Slayer PC that I built, I don't know what price that's coming in at the moment, but it had the Ryzen 3600 in. It was roughly kind of $500 to $600. If you put an RTX 2060 in that'll be an awesome VR build. I would say so. Stop production on some of the 20 series cards. They replaced some of them with Supers. So I think they're still selling the 2060, but I think the 2070, they stopped selling that, I think, and replaced it with a Super. They stopped the 2080 and replaced that with a Super. They've got all kinds of cards. I lost track. It was like every other week you were getting a video from all the generic gaming channels with new Nvidia card. This is the 1660 Ti Super Edition with this chip and that chip, and it's like, whoa, where does that fit into the? And I was like, yeah, okay, I'm not going to keep up with all this. Apparently the 2080 Ti is out of production. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. There's probably not that many people buying them at this point. The 2080 Ti is obviously, that's the highest end of the GeForce card. So the only people buying, not generalizing, but the majority of the people buying 2080 Ti's will be people who are really into it, who know exactly what they're buying, and they're buying it because they want the best of the best. And the people who are buying a graphics card because they want the best of the best will know that very soon the 30 series cards are coming out, so they're going to be holding back. Nobody's going to buy that when in probably 2 months' time the 30 series cards are going to come out. So why would you drop $1,500 or however much a 2080 Ti is now on that when 2 months' time your card's going to be not really obsolete, but it's not going to be value for money. Yeah, 30 series imminent indeed. There's not been much information on them, but I don't know what I'm going to do with it, to be honest. Like I've got the two 2080 Ti's here, and I don't know if I'm gonna have to see benchmarks and stuff to see whether it's worthwhile changing them. But SLI's you hear it all the time. SLI is dead. SLI is dead, and honestly, it is. Like it really is, and it's so disappointing. There's some games where I've had to actually disable SLI. I've had to turn it off. Go into the NVIDIA control panel and turn it off because the games were playing worse with SLI turned on. No, it's not dead in professional cards. That's why I've got it. It's not even dead in GeForce for professional uses. So the reason I've got it is even two 2080 Ti's in SLI is awesome for RTX ray tracing in professional workflows. So if I want to do VRED RTX ray tracing or Keyshot RTX ray tracing or anything RTX, Premiere Pro can take use of it. So in professional workloads, I can still use my two GeForce cards in SLI. It's just for gaming, it's just a complete waste. But yeah, you're right, NVIDIA Quadros in NVLink, doubling them up. Yeah, absolutely, completely agree. Expensive though. But yeah, I'd say you get what you pay for, but refer back to the last video I did. It's entirely dependent on who you are, what you're doing, and all that. I'll not go over all that again. As long as you... Oh, mate, the heat. Oh, shit. The heat, this thing. Like, it's kind of a meme about, like, a PC being like a space heater. Oh, the heat. Seriously, like... That's why the cat is literally there right now. Because I've got two fans. You see that white glowing thing there? That's a fan, obviously. That's an exhaust fan. And they're belting the heat out of the bottom of the case. And the cat's just lapping it up. The cat's like, this is where the heat's at. Honestly, it's like the heat coming out of there. It's like a wave of heat just belts you in the face. And it makes it really awkward when I'm recording stuff. Like the last couple of days, I've been doing quite a lot of recording for TFI, like trying to record bits and pieces. I did the Symmetry video that I've just done. Before that, I did the Quadro video. And today I've been recording a Android tablet thing, which was going to tie in with the Symmetry thing, but it didn't work out. And all of this recording, man, the graphics cards just start churning away and the heat's coming belting out at your face from these two cards, and you're talking and you're inhaling all of this heat and your throat's starting to croak up like it is now. It is. Like, it's double the heat. It's insane. And sometimes like the glass case is too hot to touch. There's that much heat being belted out from them, which is kind of mental. And I've had to put in a 1200 watt power supply as well to cope with the two cards because they draw some mental power. But hey, I still think two 2080 Ti's will be. It's normally been the case when like the next generation comes out. Two of the higher tier cards have always been better than a single card of the highest tier of the current generation. But you tend to not be able to get the benefits of them. Got a Dell Precision 7750. Oh, is that the new mobile workstation? I want to look this up because I think I'm getting one of them. 7750. Which size? 15 or 17? So, oh, it's a 17, isn't it? What specs did you get with that? Because that comes with a Core or a Xeon in it. Yeah, you can put either or in. Go on, tell us your specs, and I'll tell you if you went for the spec that I'd go for. Because I'm putting in at work for the 15-inch version, but the specs are pretty much in parity. Even the graphics cards now, which is kind of weird. It used to be the case that like the 17-inch model always had the capability of having a higher tier graphics card in it, because larger chassis, more cooling, Nvidia put the bigger graphics card in. But you look at the 15-inch and the 17-inch Dells and HPs, the same GPUs in both of them. 10885M, 128 gig of RAM, you absolute nutter. RTX 5000, you mentalist. Well, okay, that's significantly more than my steering wheel just cost. It's like, cost this the small, that's the same amount of money as like the debt of a small country you've just paid for there. But yeah, that is an awesome spec. It's pretty much what I'd go for. Yeah, the Xeon W10885M, which is 8 cores, 5.3 gigahertz boost. I mean, that's... Have you monitored how the CPU's doing under load? Because one of the first things I'm going to do, because I'm a nerd and this is just the things that I do, is I'm going to monitor whether or not that CPU can actually hit 5.3 sustained, or whether it's the same as like the 10900K, where it's like on a tau boost where it'll like hit 5.3 for X amount of seconds and then dial itself back. And what's the all core boost? Because it's not 5.3 all cores, it'll probably be, I don't know, 4.2, 3 or something? I don't know. Oh, we just got it installed. So is it new PC day today? Oh, it's a good day. Use for point cloud processing. Yeah, I mean that's as good as it gets today, to be honest. Like 128 gig in a laptop. That's as good as it gets. Which screen did he go for? Did he go for the 4K screen or the 1080? That's another kind of up in the air thing that I'm not quite sure about. 1080. The laptop that I reviewed on the channel was the previous model. I think it was the 7... I can't remember. They changed one number in the model codes, but it was the previous generation. And the screen, I can't remember if I mentioned it in the video, but the screen was pretty poor. It was quite flat. Like, the colors were just desaturated. So I'm considering going for a higher grade screen. Because Dell give you like 8 options for screens. There's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 9. There's 9 different 1080p displays. Why do I need 10 different 1080p display options? Oh, it's because they've got cameras. Some have got cameras in, some have got... Okay, and they're all 60 hertz. That's kind of disappointing as well. Like, I'd have preferred... I know you don't really need high refresh rates for CAD, but it's still... It's noticeably better working on a high refresh rate just overall. So it would have been nicer to have a higher refresh rate than 60 hertz, especially when you're paying that much for a laptop. I'm losing track of the questions here. Why would you want... So, Loon, why would you want what? The high refresh rate. Oh, 4K. So you don't really need... You don't need 4K for Inventor. It doesn't slow it... I think I need to do a video on this, some testing. Back a few years ago, if you ran Inventor at 4K, the whole application ran at a slower pace because the density of what's going on within the application, and it's all CPU driven, the whole program just bogged down. Like if you ran Inventor Bench, for example, at 1080p and then you ran it again at 4K, the majority of the tests would be significantly slower. But I think in 2021, I think that possibly 2020 or 2021, I don't know which version, it was kind of almost like a stealth move. I don't recall them making much of a song and dance about it, but it seems to have... something's changed. You can now run 4K Inventor, and there's not that much, if any, of a performance hit, even graphically. The only downside now with running Inventor at 4K is some of the buttons are still a little bit funky. Some of them don't scale well. Like if you go into File Open or File Save or any dialog boxes, a lot of the Windows buttons along the top, like Open, and you got the button to like change the file columns to detail view and thumbnail view and all of those buttons along the top, they're all tiny. They don't seem to scale with Windows display scaling. So you've got Inventor's normal file dialog box, which is massive. That's been scaled up properly. And then you've got all these other buttons which are absolutely tiny. It's not the end of the world. It just looks a bit ugly. But when you run an Inventor on 4K, it does look a bit sharper. It's drawn lines, circles, textures, dimensions, everything is just that much more sharper. You might not care, but it is noticeably sharper to work on it. But that doesn't make any. There's no productive benefit to that, obviously. But this again, it's the whole what else are you doing? What else are you using the laptop for? It's not like most people buy their workstation or their laptop only for Inventor. Most people also do other things on it. They might travel, and say if you're a traveling consultant or a traveling engineer, you're a contractor and you go work on a client site for a week at a time, you're obviously going to spend a lot of time in a hotel watching videos on your laptop. It might be kind of nice to just have a 4K laptop so you can watch some 4K content. Something as simple as that. Other than that, in the CAD world, there isn't really that much of benefit of having anything 4K. Can't think of anything. Even HDR, there's nothing of any benefit to us for HDR. And 1440p is crispy, yeah. I'm very hesitant to get off 1440p. All my monitors have all been 1440p, albeit widescreen, 3440 by 1440. It's going to be very difficult for me to get off a widescreen monitor. But yeah, I find 1440 just fine. But there's just something about 4K where you think, I'm watching something 4K, it must be better. I'm going to sit here and stare at it because it's 4K. I need to enjoy this because it's 4K, it's crispy, it's delicious, it's 4K. And it's like, come on, it's not that much better. A lot of the time, what you're watching in 4K is entirely dependent on who's created the content and how well it's been shot. Hell, I mean, my videos that I create on YouTube, I could record this that you're watching here, right? My ugly mug on a 1080p webcam, which, I mean, Logitech call this 1080p. This isn't 1080p. This is a fuzzy, blurry, absolute muggly mess. But I can put this into Premiere Pro and then upscale it to 4K, just magnify it up, and then render it onto YouTube at 4K. And then you can be playing this back on a 4K telly, registered at 4K. You're like, oh, it's 4K. Does this look like 4K? Do you know what I mean? And so it's entirely down to like who's shot it, who shot the content, and how well it's been produced. You only watch it at 44. Put me on a double speed as well. Sound like Linus. So aye. But yeah, that laptop. That was a good laptop. I'm soon to pick one myself. So you got the right CPU. What else? The graph. I was kind of a bit curious about the GPU choices because you've only got like 3 RTX graphics card choices. You've got the RTX 3000, 4000, and 5000. And the RTX 5000 is 1,600 quid extra to put into the laptop. That's a lot of money. What's your problem with Linus? Oh, I don't have a problem with that. Yeah, I don't. He just winds me up. ECC or non-ECC RAM. That's another dilemma. I'll probably put ECC RAM. The thing is, if you go for ECC RAM, you're kind of capped at what memory speed you can go with. This is a good configurator. Dell have always had a really good configurator on their website. so you know exactly what you can get and what your options are. So yeah, that's on the to-do list. New laptop. Part of working from home more. You need the VRAM. Yeah. Yeah, I mean with the RTX 5000, that's what, 16 gig of VRAM. That's a lot of VRAM. You're not going to get any more than that in a laptop. Is there any way you can get more than that on a laptop? I think the only way you could possibly get more VRAM in a laptop is if you would run an external graphics, like a graphics amplifier or external enclosure, and put a Quadro in. Like a full-size desktop RTX 8000 or something with 48 gig of VRAM, but then you're talking absolute silly money. And then it's like, why have you got a laptop if you're doing that? There were a few with RTX 6000 available. So why is it wasn't available in the configurator that I saw? I haven't seen the RTX 6000 in the configurator. I haven't seen a mobile RTX 6000 anywhere actually, unless it's that limited that you've got to be super quick to get one. But then who's snapping them up that fast? RTX 6000 mobile. Apparently it is, you're right. TU102, 4608 CUDA cores, 24 gig of VRAM. Wow. 24 gig of VRAM in a laptop. Aye, the good old days. I don't know, many of you remember this, but about 4 years ago, I made a video with my Alienware laptop where I had the graphics amplifier and I put an AMD FirePro W9100 in the graphics amplifier and gave the laptop 16 gig of VRAM, and that was at a time where no laptops ever, not a single one, had more than like 8 gig of VRAM max, I think. I'm talking like 4 or 5 years ago here. And now, yeah, 24 gig of VRAM in a laptop, man. It's mental how fast it, like, even now in 2020, how things are progressing still at that kind of a rate. I mean, that's not incremental, man. That's smashing it. That wasn't a Dell, was it not? Okay, fair enough. So, right. So what do you reckon about that VR thing that I did yesterday? Any of you finding that of particular interest? I think they're going to open that up. I don't know if they're going to open it up for public beta. Beta. Is it beta or is it beta? I've been around Americans that much. I don't know what's the right word. I'm going to stick with beta, because that's my instinctive go-to word. I think that's the American version. But if they open it up for public beta, are you interested? Going to go in for it? You used us. I didn't use you to go and attack Craig. Yeah, I don't think they've opened it up yet. A lot of the guys who are running the program, they're based in the Nordics, apparently, so I've heard, just shut down at this time of year, and they all go on holiday. Because why not? So I've been speaking to a couple of them, and they're like, "Oh, we're going to do this, that, and the other when we get back from holiday." So yeah, I think it's kind of on hold for, I don't know, a week, maybe 2 weeks, I don't know. And there's a lot to do. It looks really, really promising. But one bit of feedback that I gave to them was, like, one of my concerns was, I'm not sure whether some of the problems that I came across were Symmetry problems or Unity problems. Like, for example, can you remember when I was looking at the jet engine on the desk, and like the tablet was kind of bouncy, and I was like pinch zooming? I had to pinch zoom about 50 times to zoom into that jet engine. And I was like, pinch. I was like, why is this taking so long to zoom in? Why can't I just like do one big pinch to zoom it in that far? It's like, I don't know whether those kind of things are like inherent to the Unity app or whether it's their app. I think they did clear that up in the end, but that's just like one example. And when you're on the iPad as well and you're kind of orbiting it around, you can't set the pivot point. You know, in Inventor, when you orbit something in Inventor, and like you press F4, you press whatever, and it just orbits like this. It sort of shoots around, and it sort of whizzes right off camera like that, and you're like, oh, for God's sake. And you've got to like pan, orbit, pan, orbit, pan, orbit. Well, obviously you set the pivot point to be on the object, and then it spins around itself. You can't do that. So you've got this constant like trying to orbit something, and as soon as you do that, it shoots off screen. Is that a Unity problem or is that a them problem? So this is just tons of stuff like that, which if those are Unity problems, I'm not that sure how fast they'll be able to get fixed in time for a potential release. I just hope they don't release it with those kind of, I don't want to call them problems, but just to-dos still needing done. Because like, I think a lot of people would start it and like hit them and be like, oh, it's just another, you know, that's not very good, and then just give up on it, you know. Unreal Engine is killing it at the moment. Unity has, from memory, I think Unity struck a deal with Autodesk though. I think that's why this is in Unity. I can't remember what the deal was. I think was it when Autodesk disabled and shut down their game engine, Stingray. I think when Autodesk shut down Stingray, they signed some kind of deal with Unity, and now Unity created. So that plugin Reflect, which Symmetry is sending Inventor data into, Unity did that themselves with Revit. And I think like that's part of the Autodesk partnership with Unity. But yeah, I mean, Unreal Engine, I don't know enough about the two of them, the intricacies of them, to kind of say one way or the other why one's better than the other for whatever reason. But yeah, you're right. I mean, Unreal Engine does have a good reputation. Like you rarely ever hear a bad word said about Unreal Engine. Then there's got to be something to that. Notice after you just spoke about the units being able to export, so it doesn't look tiny. Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about that. I don't know. With something like AR and VR, I don't know. Like that's a them problem to deal with. But is it even feasible to bring something in always at 1:1 scale? I suppose you're going to want the option, aren't you? But like if you're casting, I don't know, like a ship hull to somebody who's in an office, you're like, right, I'm going to show you the design for the ship hull. To somebody who's in a boardroom, you can't really cast it to them at 1:1 scale. It's going to have to be scaled down, isn't it? So there's going to be times where you're going to need to scale something down. So I did start thinking about that kind of stuff later on. But yeah, it's just hopefully all of these things are the things that they're thinking about. You didn't get a notification on the video yesterday. That sounds like standard YouTube stuff, mate. I assume you've got the bell bunged. That's all I can do, mate. I mean, I've got my own. Hang on a minute, let's have a look. I've got my little phone here, which, yeah, I got one. So that phone's logged in to YouTube on another account. So when I release a video, I get the notifications on this, so I know that they're actually working. So yeah, it is sending them out. So speaking of that, I'll give you a heads up on what's coming. What I was working on today. So this thing here. Oh, it's mirrored. Awesome. Of course it's mirrored. So this is the Dragon Touch Max 10 tablet. So I got sent this. I mean, I'm kind of regurgitating some of the stuff I'm saying in the video that I've just recorded, but you get sent stuff from, or you don't get sent it, but you get emails from Amazon sellers on a regular basis offering stuff that's usually absolute crap and completely irrelevant. But these guys were like, look, we've got a tablet. It's an Android tablet, and they listed off all the specs, and it's like 1920 by 1200 octa-core processor, 3 gig of RAM, 32 gigs of internal storage. It's got Wi-Fi, dual band Wi-Fi, 5G. It's got obviously Bluetooth, USB-C charging. It just on paper, like when they listed the specs, it ticked all the boxes. 110 quid for a 10.1 inch Android tablet with a stock Android 9 operating system. And I was like, what? Hang on a minute. So I was like, yeah, send me that. So that's it there. And the reason that I was interested in that, because they got in touch with me literally the same day as Symmetry got in touch with me about the Reflect thing, which was like, but then I can use this as a cast to this. Symmetry did this tablet. That's perfect. And then I can kind of pitch this as like a cheap, you've got a training thing going on, you're an inventor, you've got this inventor session, and then you can cast to like a dozen cheap tablets. You can just hand them out to clients or training delegates or whatever. Here's a bunch of cheap tablets in a classroom. Cast Symmetry Reflect with a bunch of cheap tablets. Turns out that's not going to work because this doesn't support augmented reality. Of course it doesn't. But yeah, 110. So that's the video I was working on today. 110 quid for that. It is an absolute bargain for that. The processor's crap. Screens, okay. But yeah, it's not bad really. Is a tablet for just kicking about the house, to just have like lying around and like, it's just like on the chair next to you. It's in the front room, just to pick it up and go, what's going on in the news, and then it just sort of chuck it. It's kind of like that, because it's only 110 quid. It's good for that. But yeah, it's got some issues, but so yeah, the whole point of getting this was to link it in with the Symmetry Reflect thing, but yeah, it turns out it doesn't support augmented reality, and I think that's because it's either because the camera isn't up to par or the CPU isn't up to par. If you look at their marketing page, they're like, it's an octa-core CPU, octa-core, 8 cores, we've got 8 cores, not 7, not 6, not quite 9, 8 cores. Ryzen has 8 cores, we're like Ryzen. 8 cores over here, 8 cores. You run it through Geekbench, it performs worse in Geekbench than this phone. This phone's nearly 6 years old. That's how bad the processor is in the tablet. But hey, it does the job. It does the job. It works. It runs like Netflix, fine. It runs 1080p video, absolutely fine. No buffering, no stuttering, nothing like that. So, yeah, I'll still get a video out on that as soon as I can. But yeah, that was 110 quid though for like an Android, a stock Android full HD tablet with Wi-Fi, like full on dual band Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, USB-C charging. Madness. Absolute madness. There's a clear differentiation between that up to an iPad, but not bad. Not bad at all. Not bad at all. Right, so we're nearly been an hour. What's going on? Right, I'm going to think about wrapping up. If there's anything else you want to chat about, let us know. One thing I do want to talk about. I'm going to probably definitely be knocking on the head the membership tier for the sponsorship thing. I give it a good run, but it just didn't get many takers. So we're going to probably knock that in the head, which means in the next week or so, possibly, I might be releasing another. I'll have to, like a welcome to the membership thing. Oh, this is TFI. Welcome to the membership thing. This is the. Because I'm going to have to remove it. I can't have a welcome to the membership video where one of the tiers doesn't exist anymore. So if you see that pop up, that's why, because I'm getting rid of it. So that's that. If you see that appear, that's why. So we're still evolving. We're seeing how it goes. We're up to, I think, 103 or 104 members in total at the moment. So we'll give it a few more months, see how it goes. It's going good. Going good. And Discord is going nicely, yes. I'm trying to be on them as much as I can. Obviously, you guys know I'm working on my benchmark tool. Thanks as well for... If any of you guys are members, which you are, the ones who are chatting, or there might be people watching who aren't members, but the guys who are members, I've linked in the Discord server one of the files that's going to be in my benchmark tool, and if you want to, I kind of need just to beta test the file for me. I need to get some samples of one of the tests that I'm going to be putting into my benchmark test. I just need to get a kind of an idea as to how long a certain test is going to run on a variety of different systems. So if you're a member and you're in the Discord server, scroll up the general page. I don't know, I might have to pin this. It's probably buried now, isn't it? I'll find a way of maybe pinning it, or I don't know, linking it somewhere. But yeah, there's a link to Dropbox in there, and all you've got to do is just open up the file and then click go, and the instructions are in there, and let us know how long it took to do what it needs to do. So yeah, if that's something you're able to do, that will be most useful, because development is ramping up on that. Oh man, I wish I could blab out some of the stuff that's going on with this benchmark test, mate. If the stuff that I'm planning for it materializes, it's just gonna be a smash hit. It's gonna go platinum, mate. Platinum. Eggnog's gonna be on the phone going, mate, I'm gonna buy this off you. Name your price. I'll be like, Eggnog, you can't afford me. And he'll be like, I've got deep pockets, mate. And I'll be like, I've got a penchant for BMWs. And he'll be like, oof. I'll be like, well, let's talk. I think that's kind of where we're heading here with this benchmark test. So it's that good. It's going to be that good. But it's down to, it's kind of in the hands of Autodesk legal. That's about as much as I can say. I'm in discussions with Autodesk's legal team about certain bits and pieces, not in a bad way, in actually in a really, really good, positive way. So yeah, we just need to get the tests locked down, because I was speaking to someone, one of the guys from Autodesk before. I was telling them about the benchmark test, and I was like, it's an absolute chore to write an application for Inventor, especially a benchmark test, because Inventor does not like being told what to do. It hates it. You try and tell Inventor what to do, it just throws a hissy fit, throws its toys out of the pram, and then cries to its mother. Or goes to its room and sulks in its bed. It hates it. You can like with Inventor Bench, with the current benchmark tool that we've got, you can run the same test over and over and over again, and you might get like a deviation of, I don't know, like a second here, a second there. The tests that I've got at the moment, we're nailing them down, like we're getting them sorted, but I'm seeing like sometimes processes that are needing to fire up are just not firing up. Shit's meant to be binary. It's meant to be binary. It's like it either works or it doesn't work. Inventor, it's as random as a box of frogs. You can run the same test. I shit you not. You can run the same test 20 times consecutively without closing Inventor, without doing a single damn thing differently. Run the test. Run the test. Run the test. Run it 20 times. And I swear to God, you can get 17 successful results, and on the 18th time, something completely different will happen. Or you'll get 8 successful attempts, and then on the 9th time, something completely different will happen. It is so friggin' random. And that's not good for a benchmark test. You don't want that in a benchmark test. So, yeah. Greetings and salutations, Wilson, to meetings and Palpatine. Palpitation, I like that. Strokes and palpitations. Is it limited to 2021? Good question. Is it limited to 2021? Possibly. It depends on whether I can get the files. I think there might be, It's whether the files that I'm using, I've got a version of them. Probably not, All of the work that I've done on the benchmark test has been on 2021. All of the development, all of the design, tweaking this, tweaking that. The data that I'm using, the files that I'm using, they all originated from earlier versions, but I don't think I'm going to have an identical data set to what I've got in 2021 in an earlier version, because you can't save the files back. I can't do like a copy, save as an earlier version. The benchmark test will run because it's going to be set up in a way where it will run in earlier versions, but it's the files. Timo, you got an old CPU. That's Timo, mate. That's exactly what I need, because that test, best case scenario, it finishes in around, so far best case scenario 43 seconds. I need to see what the worst case scenario is. So far we've had someone wait around 4.5 minutes, nearly 5 minutes for that test to finish. So I need to see how long people could potentially sit and wait for a test to finish. I need to know these things. Like adding that onto all the other tests that I've got, what's like the longest wait time someone could potentially have to sit and wait for. And it isn't just a case of like, I could be pissing people off here because they've got to sit and wait a while. I've got to think about things like, are people's laptops going to go to sleep during the test? Do you know what I mean? That happened on one of my... Can you remember this? Oh, this laptop here. This is the 99 quid laptop that I got from a store in the UK. This has got a 2-core Celeron in it. It's like the worst of the worst laptops. So bad that some of the tests don't even run on it. It is shockingly bad. And this thing went to sleep. It just turned off during the benchmark test. So I need to think about those kind of things as well. Which then begs the question, can I set people's... I can't set people's power plans before the test run, I don't think. Is there a way of running a program and tell the system to not go to sleep whilst the program's running? I don't know. These are the things I've got to think about. You thought yours was slow at 100 seconds. No, 100 seconds would be pretty good. The 43 seconds was on a 10900K, so that's 10 cores. One of the best, bar of Threadripper, or the high-end Ryzens. So I think 100 seconds is probably pretty decent, because yours was a Mobile i9, I think. So Mobile i9 is going to be sort of very good to excellent. Animated graphics during test should keep most machine awake. One of the tests is a drawing test. So it's computing the drawn views. So there's not a lot going on. I don't think Windows takes it into account like visuals as to when it goes to sleep. I think it's input, like human interface device input. So it's keyboard and mouse input that it bases it on. Or else like you'd have to then define what, if Windows, I don't know if Windows was to make a decision on whether to go to sleep or not based on movement on the screen, you'd have to start, kind of what's the bar for that? Like if a pixel sort of moves over here, or I don't know, the clock at the bottom right ticks over every minute, is that going to stop it from going to sleep? So I think it's human interface device input. Just run a bunch of other things on a 1440p ultrawide in 79 seconds. the resolution makes a massive difference. This is one of the things I need to think about. And I've got a feeling I'm going to have to force that test to run at 1080p. That's on a 10980 XE. That's a 10 core, isn't it? That's a 10 core CPU. 18. Oh Christ. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to run that test and force the Inventor window to be a 1080p, because at 4K it's computing 8 million pixels. At 1080p it's computing 2 million pixels. It's an absolute insane jump from 1080p to 4K for that test, and it can quadruple the time it takes for the test to finish. So if you've got, like, if I've got I've got a laptop over there. It's a Dell XPS 13 laptop. It's got a power saving i7 CPU in there, 4 cores. It's crap. The CPU is crap. It's good enough to run Chrome, Word, Outlook, probably Photoshop, the usual suspects. But it's got a 4K screen. If I run that test on that laptop with the display set to 4K, that'll be running overnight. It'll never finish. So I might have to set the Inventor window at a 1080p size before that test runs to keep things okay. I'll have to think about that. You got a Threadripper 3970X downstairs? Yes, please, mate. Which one's that? The Threadripper 3970X. .32 core. Get the hell out of here. Yes, please. If you can do the test on that at 1080p, that's probably going to be as close to best case scenario at the moment as to how fast that test's going to ever finish. If your test would perform badly due to high resolution, would you not want to know that? I do know that, but I've got to think about how the person who's running the test is going to react. Like, there's a chance, like, if I was to run that test on my I'm probably going to have to, actually. But if it takes like 20 to 30, possibly up to an hour for the test to finish, I don't think I can expect people to sit and wait. It's right. Okay, it's not about that, actually. It's more that test will completely wreck the rest of the benchmark, because up until that point, say you've run all of the tests at 4K on that laptop, they've performed okay, reasonable, not that much different to as if the PC was at 1080p. All of a sudden you're in the ray tracing test and it takes 4 times as long. It's going to absolutely cripple the end score of the benchmark test and give it like a false end score. And fair enough, like the test will be logged as a 4K score, but it's only a poor 4K score because of one test. I need to put more thought into this, but it'll ruin that entire test. Like, say if I've got 20 tests, 19 of them are going to be the same end result regardless of resolution, but the last test isn't. It's that's going to compromise the end score. Am I thinking about segregating the tests or doing an overall score? Both. There'll be one final score, one big number, but then you'll be able to break it down into what each individual test was. How like granular I get with that, I don't know. I don't know whether I'll have like a graphics score, a modeling score, a drawing score. I don't know, or whether I'll have like, it took this long to do this bit, it took this long to create this view, this long to do that bit, that bit, that bit, that bit. I haven't thought that far ahead yet. It won't take that long to figure that bit out. But I think I've got the algorithm in my head sorted for what the end score is going to be. So that's pretty much locked down, and I've got a couple of ideas on how I can expand on that as well. Not just have one end score, but also like a couple of extra bits and pieces for differentiating things. But I do need to think about the resolution. It's like with that graphics test, with the ray tracing test, like I said in the Discord server, I've also got to think about things like the model browser, running things in clean screen. It's got to be like perfectly consistent, because if one person likes to run Inventor with their model browser taking up half the screen, well then they're only ray tracing 50% of the visual viewport, whereas someone else with the same size monitor is ray tracing 90% of the viewport, and their ray tracing is going to take much longer on the same resolution. So I've got to run it at clean screen. Yeah, there's quite a bit to think about. That bit isn't a job for the coder. No, that's all my job. It's my job to design, like, and think of every end possibility of like basically the programmer is just doing what I tell him to do, pretty much. He's coming across issues in code, but it's my job to think of every outcome, every eventuality, every nuance, absolutely everything. Like whether things run at document settings, application settings, it's just everything. It's just absolutely everything. Is it not possible just to post the viewport? What do you mean? What do you mean post the viewport? 42 seconds on the 1440p ultra wide. That's with a 1080. That's pretty good, mate. That is really good. I'll be curious to see what you get with the 1090 DXC, the 3970X, because what I'm trying to avoid is the best of the best CPUs being able to demolish that test in like single digit numbers. Oh, that was the 3970X. Oh, that's good. Okay. Oh, that's actually surprising. I would have expected quicker than that. It's still not bad. Like my 10900K did that, I think took about, I don't know, 100 seconds, something like that, to do that test at 1440p ultra wide. So can you give it a, if you've got access to it now, can you give it a quick blast at 1080p? Because yeah, like I said, I'm trying to avoid it being able to be done in single digit numbers, because in like 10 years time, or I don't know, 5 years time, for example, when CPUs progress, everyone's going to end up on better and better CPUs, and you don't want your test to ultimately be, by default, the norm to be done in single digits when everyone's on a better CPU in the future. Is it have your test only look at what's in the viewport and ignore everything else? Well, the viewport is, so when you dock the Inventor model, you know, the browser in Inventor clips onto the left hand side of your screen, that resizes the entire viewport. Like if you drag your model browser to the left or to the right, it resizes the viewport. If you drag it all the way right the way across the monitor, the viewport is only like that wide. There's far less pixels in the viewport. So even if I post, that's what I'm doing. I am posting just what is in there. But if the model browser exists and is huge, it's significantly reducing the size of the viewport. So I've got to I've got to remove the model browser and run Inventor in clean screen mode. Surely OpenGL not used in the UI. I can't show you what I mean because I can't. Can I? I'll see if I can get Inventor up on the. I'll see if I can get Inventor up on the clean screen. On the clean screen. Streaming PC. Right. Let's see. Can I add a source? Window capture, yes, I can. Right. Okay, so you can see that. Can you see that? Can you see that? Can you see that? Yes, you can. So, what I mean is, oh, there we go. There's the little guy there. So we're ray tracing that, right? So this here, this window here, can you see my mouse cursor? Yeah, you can. Yeah, so this window here is the extent of what's being ray traced. Everything inside this window is what's being ray traced. And this palette here is dictating how big the viewport is. So if I was to go like this, right, now only that is being ray traced. And that takes significantly less time to ray trace. So, like for example, if I go into ray tracing draft mode, right? So look at the time that that's taken. So 3, 4, 5, 6. So if I take this and then significantly drag it across, watch how faster. Watch how much faster this will ray trace. It's going up much quicker. Significantly quicker, ray tracing that. So someone could quite easily cheat the test by docking their model browser like all the way across here and then just starting the ray tracing. Easy. Even as ridiculous as that. Look at that, it's finished. The whole thing is finished in 8 seconds. Whereas if it's over here, eight seconds is gone, it's barely 15-20% finished. So that's why when I do the ray tracing test, I've got to change it to clean screen, and now there's nothing impeding this viewport. That's kind of what I mean. I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know if that's what you were trying to get at. You could use a camera in studio to ray trace. I'm not doing it in studio. I did think about doing that, but to do a test in Inventor Studio, you're going to have to activate an environment. So I'm going to have to jump into Inventor Studio and then activate a pre-existing. Basically, I have to simulate pressing buttons and going into Studio and then dialog box. But it just seemed easier to just enable ray tracing in the viewport and just time how long it takes to go across. It just seemed a lot easier to do that. So it's kind of working. But yeah, it's not Inventor Studio. I don't think I would have got any benefit to doing it in Inventor Studio. It seems to be okay. You would have had the resolution. I would have had the resolution covered. You're right. That's actually a good point, isn't it? That is a good point. Right. Don't worry, it's going to come up in a second. Why was clean screen? So I would have to go into Inventor Studio, render image. So this would all need to be configured. Then we'll click render. Let's pause this. Right, so taking a look at that. Wait, what have I got here? Yeah, maybe. So far, what I'm dealing with, like with some of the other tests that I've got which fire up dialog boxes like that, this is, I don't know, is this a different service? Some of the bits of Inventor that fire up extra modules like this tend to run with a separate executable, and when we've got things like that going on, we'll get all kinds of issues. This doesn't look like it is. This might actually be all within Inventor. Orders component, what's that? That's the licensing. Okay, that might work, you know. That might work. Good shout, mate. Good shout. I think I'll speak to the developer about that, because you're right. That might solve the resolution problem. I just don't want to introduce more issues of having to bounce through dialog boxes and then shut dialog boxes, because when things pop up in automation, you're asking for trouble. That's what we've had so far when dialog box pop up, especially on slow systems. Like that old laptop there, that dialog box, that studio dialog box won't pop up on that laptop for a significant amount of time later than it would do on something else, which properly throws your application and can cause all kinds of issues. I mean, we can try and I've got into development mode here, so I'll wind it backward. Yeah, I'll look into that. That's a good shout. Show us some macro script you can force full screen viewport for the test. There is, yeah. I mean, yeah. That's kind of the issue I want to try and. I want to try and avoid running it at full screen, because if someone's running it on a 4K laptop and they've got a poor CPU, if I maximize their Inventor through a script, it'll run the ray trace at 4K, which means it'll take ages. So I kind of want to resize it to 1080. But then I need to make sure that they can't resize it themselves. This is where my time's gone for the last few weeks. All kinds of stuff like this. I actually enjoy this. This is quite fun. It's fun thinking about this stuff and trying to catch all of this stuff. It's just a little bit, it's like quite difficult communicating it back to the developer, because he's like, I'm not dealing with him face to face. It's over, I'm using Teams to kind of communicate with him. So it's like, I'm feeding all this back, and there's so much to talk about, there's so much to communicate. I'm like, right, we need to do this because of this, that, and the other, and if this happens, then we've got to be careful that this doesn't happen, and then this got to be done because of blah, 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 and all of a sudden I've got a feedback page like this big, and I don't know if it's understood and registered. So I enjoy thinking about these things, but I don't know if they're kind of being soaked in. I think they are so far. We are getting there. I feel quite bad for the guy, because I'm just throwing a absolute wall of crap at him. He's doing well though. He's doing really well. I'm grateful for studio. Yeah, it's not gonna happen. Not gonna happen. It ain't gonna happen. I tell you what, I was absolutely. Can we just all take a moment to ask ourselves, why is this still in the software? What in the absolute holy hell is that pixelated mess. You paid how much for your software and you're looking at what, you say? What is that? What is that? As you were. Why is that still in the software? Come on. Anyway, yeah. I'll have a think about that stuff. Right. I am going to knock it on the head there, mate. Thank you very much, lads, for turning up. And if there's any lasses lurking. I'll enjoy my steering wheel tomorrow. DD2. Oh, I'm so excited. Could you import your own background? Oh, the HDRI. I could. I did think about that. But there's no benefit to us doing that. The actual HDRI, the background of Inventor, doesn't actually make really any difference to the performance. It would just be a visual thing. I'd thought about having like, I don't know, you know, the VRED stuff I've been doing, like there's all kinds of free HDRIs out there, like of, I don't know, like picturesque streets in Munich or whatever. It'd be nice to have that. Nah, it adds nothing. It's not going to change the performance. It's not going to do anything. So I'm all right with the default Inventor ones. They're kind of soft. They're chill. They're smooth. They look good. They're inoffensive. So I'm all right with them. It is a nightmare to add your own ones to Inventor. Why it is? Have I even done a video on how you do that? I forgot myself. I have done it before. I forgot. I can't remember if I did a video on it. It's not worth it. It really isn't worth it. The amount of hassle it is to create and import your own backgrounds. It's not worth it. And they're not really better. What are you going to get out of it? Not a great deal. You're not going to create... I mean, you could. You could create your final render in Inventor. But... there's better ways of doing that, like. Yes. Thanks, lads. I'll see you probably... over the next couple of days on Discord. I'll be checking on that. I'll be checking on that link to see what the if anybody's posting any additional times. 4K. Sorry, Brad. I'm just going to take a quick gander at what your 4K ROM is. What? ...25 seconds on the 3970X. Huh. I'm okay with that. So my test, 32 core CPU, thread ripping the shit out of it, and it still takes 25 seconds to do it. I think I'm alright with that. Like, we're nowhere near 32 core threadrippers being the norm. Cool. Just finished watching the Honda CRF video. Loads of renderings there. That's not my video, is it? Which video was this? Honda CRF video. If that's not my video, which I don't think it is, I don't think I've done anything with Honda. Post it in Discord, mate. I'll have a check up on it. New model Honda 20. Yeah, post it in Discord, mate. I'll check up on it later. Right, I'm hungry. I'm gonna go and get something to eat. Thanks very much for turning up. Much appreciated, lads. Have a good week. It's not even Friday. I feel like what a whitey. You know when you're convinced it's Friday and it dawns on you that it isn't. That just happened. Have a good weekend after tomorrow. I'll see you the next one. Doodles.